Today, I want to share some ideas that you can use to incorporate tools into Citrix Workspace that help build human resiliency. I want to be clear, Workspace alone is not the answer to building a resilient workforce. However, it can be used as a tool to help promote well-being and provide access to resources and people simply and effectively. My name is John Moody, Domain Specialist here at Citrix. The problem that we've found is that employee wellbeing content is easily lost in large intranets and it's hard to find when you need it the most. At Citrix, we've taken a pretty serious look at the way we support our employees. And one of the many schemes that we've embarked on is that of the mental health first aider. I was fortunate enough to undertake mental health first aider training in the week before the UK entered lockdown. The scheme, run in conjunction with the Mental Health First Aider England charity, prepares employees to have a basic understanding of mental health and what to do, very similar to traditional first aid at work training. The roles and responsibilities are there to support employees in terms of directing them to the appropriate resources that they need to go. What we don't do is offer a counselling service or any sort of mental health advice. In the UK alone, 1 in 6 workers are going to experience some sort of depression, anxiety, and problems relating to stress. Prior to lockdown in 2018-19, there were 602,000 cases of work-related stress, depression, or anxiety in the UK alone. And the financial impact is great. Mental ill health is responsible for 72 million days lost and costs over $34.9 billion a year. Whilst the statistics demonstrate that mental ill health is prevalent and costs a lot, there is also a real human cost. Mental ill health is not just a work-related illness. We don't just suffer stress at work 9 till half 5 and then go home and everything's fine. It's all-consuming, it's drowning, and it takes over. There is no off switch to mental ill health, and as modern employers embrace good wellbeing practices in the workplace, it cannot be easily seen through the lens of ensuring productivity, but one of common human decency. Those of us who attended the mental health first aider training decided to create an internal community that employees at Citrix can reach out to. And at Citrix, I'm proud to be one of these mental health first aiders. One thing that we've worked out or trying to work on is how do we bring prevalence and focus to the various wellbeing schemes that Citrix offer internally. And I believe that this is something that our customers and partners can also assist. And this is around using Citrix Workspace as a way for employees to access wellbeing content that the company hold. So how can we use Citrix Workspace to support resilience? So what I'm going to embark on now is basically building a really straightforward, simple demo of an integration that we could build into Citrix Workspace that would allow employees to basically get hold of a mental health first aider. I'd like to think about this as essentially a big red button that sits there in the user's workspace and allows them to access mental health resources within an organization. It needs to allow a user to contact someone. We need to make it abundantly clear, though, that we're not looking to provide counselling or any sort of mental health advice. So I'm going to show you now how we can build this big red button as a straightforward integration that you too can build. So the idea of this is to start small and then grow over time into a more comprehensive solution. For those of you aware of the Citrix developer community, there is an existing Slack integration that you can go and build yourself. Take this as a prerequisite if you want to go and build the demo I'm about to show you. You can do this using a free Microapp developer instance available from Citrix Cloud and also a free Slack account as well. And really the idea is to get you to build a straightforward, simple messaging demo that demonstrates how you can extend and use Workspace to support resiliency and well-being within your organization. So first of all, we're going to start with the Slack configuration. And if you're following the documentation online, I'm assuming that you've already got the initial Slack configuration done as per the guide on the developer portal. There is basically one major change between the guide that's currently published online and the demo I'm about to show you. And that is we need to change the user token scopes and we need to add in user profile read. The standard one that comes with the demo guide is essentially channels history, channel read, and channel write. We need to add in this additional one. So what we want to be able to do is interrogate a group of Slack users and find out which ones are our mental health first aiders. So let's move on to the Microapp Build. This is all done within the Citrix Workspace platform. The demo I'm here is using a test instance that you're able to sign up for, and you can have access to that for 30 days. So first of all, what we're going to do is add a custom integration. So this is as per the documentation that we've already provided. And in essence, we're going to create a new integration to your HTTP web service. And we configure, again, as per the documentation, the base URL, etc., and adding in the token for the user that we want to be able to access our mental health first aider services. In this integration, I'm using the basic token authentication. If this was ever going to go any further and be incorporated at an enterprise level, we'd be looking at using OAuth 2 here for authorization. So the first thing that we need to do is configure our data endpoint. And essentially what I'm going to do here is try and pull out from a list that I have in Slack of a channel of mental health first aiders. What I want to do is be able to pull that list of users out so the users have the ability to be able to contact specific first aiders. So first of all, I'm going to look at the conversations.list API endpoint, which will basically list the channels that I have available. So what I can see here is I've got the channel name of mental health first aiders. So I know that all the people who are mental health first aiders at Citrix are a member of this chat channel. So what I'm going to do is grab the ID of that channel. What I'm then going to do is create another data endpoint, and I'm going to call this one get MHFA channel members. And this is using the conversation.members API endpoint. And what this will do is basically allow me to pull the list of members of that group out into a table. So you can see here I have 2 members listed, but that's not particularly useful. That's just user IDs, and ideally I want their names to be populated. So what I'm going to do here is first of all add that into a table. I'm then going to add a child API call. And the child API call uses the users.profile.get API endpoint. And what we can then do is then build up a table that contains not only the user and that ID that we saw in the screen previously, but also the real name, email address, and contact details for my mental health first aiders. We then need to add the service action. The service action is essentially exactly the same service action that we offer in the developer guide. I've used slightly different variable names here for clarity, but essentially the channel I'm going to be posting to, as opposed to being a generic Slack channel, it's actually going to be directly to another Slack member. So it's a private one-to-one conversation. So we get our service action built, and then what we now need to do is start building the page. So the page is fairly straightforward. We're going to add in a title of contact mental health first aider, and then some guidance around using this form to contact a mental health first aider. And these are just using the static text items on the page builder. The most complex part here is adding in the select pull down menu. And what I want to do here is populate this with a list that I've previously obtained of a list of mental health first aiders that people can contact. So what we do is we configure this pull down menu to look at the data table of our MHFA usernames that we configured previously. And then what we want to do is display the normalized name. So we'll see this shortly in the demo, how this actually functions. I then pull in a text box that is an area for somebody to create some text. And then I build my submit message button. What happens with the submit message button is I'm going to use the service action that I previously configured to send a message to my MHFA channel. Okay. Last but not least, we then need to add some subscribers to my application. So my test user here is a gentleman called Leon. So I'm going to add him as a subscriber to my app. Okay, so we've built our really simple, straightforward messaging function. So what I'm going to do now is very quickly show you what the user experience is like for Leon. So Leon's logged onto his workspace and he hits the contact a mental health first aider big red button. The list is now populated, so he's selected Hugh as the first aider he'd like to talk to. And what he's able to do is just be able to type in a simple message. In this case, how do I access the therapist? We hit submit, and that message is then sent through the Slack API directly to Hugh's Slack channel. And here we can see this is Hugh's Slack, and we can see there that the message has appeared. So here we have here is a straightforward demo example of how we can start building well-being functions into Citrix Workspace. So what I'd like to do now is bring in my good friend and colleague, Ellen Wooten, who is one of our software engineers here at Citrix. Hi, Ellen. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you, John. How
Cool.
are you?
So, Ellen, I'm very good, thank you. So, Ellen is one of our software engineers here at Citrix and has been involved in some of our demos and examples that we do around well-being. Ellen, as opposed to me talking, would you like to just give a bit of an intro of the kind of projects and stuff you've been working on?
Yeah, so over the last 18 months, I've been in a small innovation team that have been looking at applying mental health workflows into Citrix Workspace. And we've come up with some interesting microapps that definitely work in theory and hopefully we'll be able to put into practice.
Fantastic. So, you've obviously seen my rather basic big red button example. Where would you like to start in terms of if I wanted to take this further in my organization and start building upon it and actually, making it really useful for employees to do? Where should I start?
Yeah, so what we've got here is a representation of what we just saw, but in um, more diagrammatic form. I really like it as it's single use and there's no new backend system, and the functionality is usable and replicatable in other scenarios. But what I would perhaps do is to build that micro app out into more of a community feel. And I know this page is very busy, but you've still got the big red button in the middle at the top where you can still access the same functionality where you're contacting your mental health first aider directly through the micro app. But you've also got space to have your favorite resources, access to blogs and meditations that your mental health first aiders are suggesting, or even you could suggest yourself with a suggest content button. And to give it more of a personal flow, I've also added in a little workflow that could show you who all of your mental health first aiders are, where they are based in the world, and even include a picture in their favorite resource. And we could do that all with a Podio backend in theory.
Hmm. So this is kind of building it out really from what I built, which was a incredibly basic messaging, well, and one-way messaging at that, but actually trying to build like a more of a community around resilience and our mental health well-being stuff that we do here at Citrix. Um, I really like that, and I really like the idea that potentially in the future we could use things like Podio integrations to really kind of expand that out into something that's quite, for employees is fundamentally more useful. I know we've had our own challenges internally, and I'm sure other organisations are the same. It's the worst possible time of trying to search for content and ideas and support that your employer is giving you is typically, particularly around well-being and mental health services, is probably at the point where you really don't want to be searching. You just need instant access to that kind of stuff. And I think this idea of expanding it out into community is an absolutely fantastic idea. Should we take a look at
Yeah,
some of the other work that you've been working on, Ella?
yeah, love to.
So do you want to talk to me around what we're doing here with daily check-in?
Yeah, so this is a micro app that we've built a very basic prototype of. It gives you a notification every day of the week, of your work week, even, and allows you to check in with how you're feeling. It's a way of saying like how you are as a person. We feel really strongly about, as a small innovation team, we feel really strongly about like mental health at work, addressing the whole person and not just how you're feeling about work. And we built this up iteratively as well. We started with just the how you feeling, and then it shows you a graph of how you were feeling. And we've been able to build on that and add some extra bits with the suggestions at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of the second page, and that final page showing you some resources. In this example, it's setting goals. It's saying you're in a great mood today, so why not set some goals for the future? And it allows you to vote on that. And then the idea is that that would feed back in and improve your suggestions for the future.
This almost feels like a step count that I have on my Fitbit, but in terms of how I'm feeling, that's such a good
Yeah.
idea. And presumably I can then track this over time, and I can see how miserable I feel as time goes on. That's absolutely fantastic. I really like that one. Okay. So do you want to talk to me about Calendar Monitor, which I know is another project you've been working on?
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more far out, a little bit more tricky. This is showing how well-being could integrate with third-party tools. So we saw Slack at the beginning. This would integrate with something like Outlook or whatever you're using to manage your calendar. You can see the nice pie chart in the middle there. That is a representation of how your week looks in meetings or not in meetings, and the two kind of tasks at the bottom of the page on the left, one of them would lead to the page on the right, and it would allow you to book out your lunch times for the week. Because I know that without booking out time in my calendar for lunch, I rarely take it. So we wanted both. We wanted both the data representation on this page and some useful actions as well.
So if we can then, the next step to this, though, to actually mute my email or mute all my Slack chats and Teams chats as well, that would be a great next step as well. I absolutely love this, Ellen. I think the work that you and your innovation team have been working on around the wellbeing stuff has been really inspirational. And I think it's a really great, nice thing that we're using Workspace beyond the kind of traditional SOR, if you like. We're actually using it as a tool, as a place where employees can go and get work done, but also go and access and get help and resources as well, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So thanks ever so much for your efforts on this, Ellen. It's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Okay. So in terms of next steps, what would I like to see happen here? Well, we should consider workspace integrations beyond those traditional SORs and start considering other use cases such as well-being and resilience is one area. There are others within your organization, but basically start small, start with a single use case and then develop over time. This way you can prove your concept quickly and fail quickly if needed, but get that concept developed quickly and in front of people who can help make those decisions as well as this is something you'd want to integrate. I'd like to thank Ellen for coming along today. That's been really useful. Thank you ever so much and take care. Thank you very much.